Use headphones for best experience.
Cargo Bay Theta felt alive, as though the very steel and bone of the Goliath had grown a heartbeat. The blast doors slid open with a long keening of metal on metal, revealing the chamber where the asteroid's dark secret stood enthroned. Elias Vance stepped through first, plasma cutter in hand, torchlight dancing against the cavernous hull. The air trembled with the artifact's pulse, like the slow drip of an echoing wound. He inhaled, tasting ozone and the faint tang of old blood. "Stay close," he murmured, meaning both to Mara and to his own fraying nerves. Mara Jensen followed, face set in determined lines beneath her helmet visor. Her sidearm bobbed in her grip, fingers pale with tension. "You think we can really stop it?" she asked. Elias glanced at her, then at the monolith itself. The marker rose 15 meters tall, its black crystalline facets glowing with inner starlight. Etched into its surface were shifting runes and sigils, some ancient, some alien, like scars forming new flesh. They pulsed in heartbeat rhythm, sending out waves of resonance that rattled the supports overhead. "I don't know," Elias admitted, "but we have to try." They paused at the base of a spiraling catwalk that wound around the marker's lower tiers. Nebulous gas hissed from vents, as if sighing in anticipation. Beneath the catwalk lay a sea of skeletal remains, human and otherwise, strewn in concentric circles around the monolith. Some bones were woven together into crude totems, forming grotesque effigies that pointed finger-like ridges at the artifact. Elias knelt by one such figure, a child's skeleton seated on a piece of conveyor machinery, its hands outstretched in perpetual supplication. The ribs were spread wide, as though giving birth. He reached out, gently touching the tiny skull. "Mara," he whispered, voice hollow, "look at this." She crouched beside him. Child sacrifice, or tribute. He closed his eyes, heart thudding. Whatever it is, it's built on despair. A faint scratching came from the bones. They rattled as if stirred by distant movement. Mara stood, swiveled her torch toward the shadows. Nothing visible stirred, yet the bones continued to clatter, as though something hidden beneath them was alive. "I hate this," she murmured. He nodded, rising. "We all do, but this is why we're here." They climbed the first level of the catwalk, each step an intimate whisper of metal. Midway up, they encountered a ring of shattered observation windows. Beyond the glass lay the asteroid's black surface, peppered with impact scars and pockmarks. Through the cracks, they could see the excavation pit, an enormous maw gouged into the rock, slit glowing with ghostly light. "You can almost see it breathing," Mara said. Elias focused on the quarry. "It's feeding on the asteroid's core heat. That's how it sustains itself." Below, a swarm of pale, spider-like creatures, a new breed of necromorph, scuttled among the debris. Their many legs clicked against the rock, bodies jerking in spasms. Some carried hunks of bone, depositing them into cracks in the bedrock. Elias felt a wave of nausea. "They're burying themselves in this place," Mara shuddered. "Or resurrecting it." They pressed on. Another window showed the mining bay's remains, cranes half melted, ore carts stacked like grave markers. Black ichor streaked across walls. A single distant light blinked at the far end, the faint glow of a maintenance drone stuck in an endless loop. Elias took a deep breath. No turning back. As they climbed, the marker's pulse intensified. With every step, Elias heard faint whispers in his mind. First indistinct, a chorus of voices, murmuring in tongues he didn't know. Then snippets of memory rose, his childhood dormitory at the Concordance Academy, where his roommate went mad and carved runes into the walls. The smell of surgical antiseptic in the medical bay when an accident burned a colleague's flesh. The laughter of his sister on Earth before she died of fever. The whispers grew louder. "Elias, forgive us. Mara, join us. All things become one." He staggered, pressing a hand to his visor. His heart felt raw, each beat a hammer. Mara touched his arm. "Stop thinking. Focus." He nodded, forcing himself to breathe. The whispers receded, replaced by the brutal reality of the catwalk under his boots. They reached the next level, a maintenance alcove where tools lay strewn, drills, wrenches, none as long polished as they once were. The walls here were engraved with blood-scrawled messages in dozens of languages. We serve the decay. The bone wall opens. You are next. Mara hesitated. Someone or something left these? Elias shook his head. The markers reaching through them, imprinting its will. He swept a hand across a wrench. It swung free, clattering to the deck in metallic panic. He peered down. A cluster of necromorphs writhed below, biting at the effigies, pulling them apart. They paused, heads tilting as though listening for them. Then the click of claws echoed up. They stamped their legs against the metal, a taunting drum beat. Elias raised his plasma cutter. Shield your mind. Let's end this. At last they reached the topmost level of the walkway, where the catwalk encircled the marker's midsection in a ring of isolating glass. Inside this heartbeat chamber, sensors monitored the artifact's resonance and channeled its energy cores. The consoles were shattered. Fiber runes dripped with dark plasma. Elias approached a central console to repurpose its power conduit. This will reroute energy through the seismic disruptor. It'll send a shock wave through the marker's lattice. Mara began splicing cables. Just don't look at it directly. He glanced up. The marker's facets shifted, reflecting his light like moving mirrors, distorting his image into 100 gaunt faces. The console's lights flickered. Power surged. Mara tapped the final connector. With a thunderous groan, the artifact's hum deepened. The glass walls shivered as though cracking. Almost there, Mara yelled. A sudden burst of sound, a chorus of wretched screams from below, necromorphs in anguish. The plating beneath their feet groaned. Elias slammed the button. The chamber exploded in light. The console's circuits overloaded, discharging into the disruptor coil. Sparks leapt. The seismic unit whined, then roared as it unfurled from the walkway beneath them, a spider-like apparatus with drilling tendrils aimed at the monolith's core. A pulse of white energy radiated outward. The marker shivered. Cracks spider-webbed across its surface, glowing red. The runes writhed in pain. The necromorphs below writhed momentarily, then howled as they collapsed, their bodies dissolving into ash. But at the same moment, the marker's pulse flared, an obliterating wave of force and sound that knocked Elias and Mara off the catwalk. They crashed into the glass wall. The walkway buckled beneath them. Elias rolled, chamber inverted around him. Mara caught her breath, eyes wide. It's fighting back! He crawled to the seismic unit's control panel. The loudspeaker crackled. A voice, auto-filtered, emerged. Warning, self-preservation mode. All systems hostile. Mara slid next to him. We can't stop now. Finish the sequence. She stabbed at the console. The drill tendrils writhed and pressed into the marker's fissures, gouging deeper. The artifact bucked, its surface bleeding black ichor. Glass cracked overhead. The catwalk twisted. Support beams snapped. The marker's pulse staccatoed like a wounded beast. Then a sound like bone grinding on bone. The marker expelled a tremor so violent the glass enclosure exploded inwards. A shock wave hurled splintered shards across the chamber. Elias and Mara were flung back as the drilling unit toppled and lashed the deck, sending sparks and molten rock flying. Elias's world spun. He slammed a fist on the panel, forcing it to hold. The seismic drill's feed line flared with energy. Then, silence. The convulsions ceased. The marker's glow dimmed to a slow, steady pulse. Breathing ragged, Elias peered through the madness. Where once the monolith had loomed flawless, it now lay fractured, cracks exposing inner crystalline veins that pulsed like dying embers. Mara exhaled in relief. Did we do it? He touched the console one last time. A low hum rose as the disruptor's energy drained. The seismic drill powered down. Behind them, the deck beneath the marker sagged slightly, as if a giant hand had squeezed it. Dust drifted upward. I think so, Elias said, voice cracking. They descended through the shattered glass ring onto the deck below. Fissures ran across the plasteel plates, oozing ichor that hissed where it met flooring. The debris of machines, bones, and broken consoles was everywhere, ashes of many horrors. Mara supported herself against a rusted girder. Let's get out. Elias nodded, helping her step over the skeletal totems. But as they approached the freight elevator, the air roared again. From the explosion crater beneath the marker emerged something colossal, an abomination born of stone, steel, and bone. Its body was a fusion of the Goliath's dead hull plating and the petrified remains of hundreds of necromorphs. Ribbons of eldritch crystal wove through its limbs, pulsing with the marker's heartbeat. It rose with an earthquake stomp. Its eyes, many of them, glowed with the same red arcs of power that had lanced the monolith. It opened its jaw to speak, and the sound was the Goliath itself screaming. Metal torquing, steel tearing, flesh ripping. Mara shrieked, "God, it's..." Elias raised his plasma cutter, blade burning bright, but he knew it wouldn't be enough. The creature advanced, each step splintering bone and concrete. Glass exploded around them. Sparks rained like radioactive snow. Elias grabbed Mara's arm. "The shuttle, now!" They sprinted, hearts hammering. The creature's roar chased them, a world-shattering cacophony that bent the very air. It raised a giant shovel arm, steel plate flicking like a blade, aimed to cleave them in two. They dove for the freight elevator. Elias jammed the call button. Doors slid open, welcoming them with a hiss. They tumbled inside. He slammed the panel for the docking bay. The deck shuddered as the creature's shovel struck the upper hatch, bent iron shrieking as it ground against the door. "Hold on!" Elias shouted, slamming his weight against the button. The elevator lurched down. Sparks flew from the hatch as the creature's arms scraped the rim. The doors closed just as the beast's gauntlet burst through. Shards of metal rained on the deck above. They dropped, fast, past broken shafts and gaping decks. The marker's fractured core glowed above them as the beast raged in the chamber. Then beyond the wreckage of the ship's guts, they heard a final, distant roar. Less rage now, more anguish, a haunted lament. The elevator screeched to a halt at the docking bay level. Doors slid open onto the ruined hangar, littered with wrecked shuttles and debris. The only exit was the awaiting salvage shuttle. Its engines glowed orange, vulnerable. Elias and Mara bolted across the grated floor. Each step rang in the empty bay, the silence oppressive after the chamber's cacophony. Behind them, the freight elevator doors exploded outward. The creature's head loomed, eyes blazing. A wave of heat snuffed out the overhead lamps. Only the shuttle's engines still glowed. They dove into the cabin. Mara slammed the hatch. The creature's arm crashed into the bay, smashing the next shuttle to splinters. Steel beams bent as it reached for them. Elias keyed the ignition. The engines roared, pushing them free of the bay. Glass dust stung their eyes as the hatch slid shut behind them. He punched the throttle. The shuttle shot into darkness. Behind them, the bay doors exploded outward as the creature smashed free, an enormous shape silhouetted against the torn ship. Elias banked away just as the monster swung its shovel arm. The wrecked Goliath loomed like a corpse shedding its skin. The shuttle weaved through flaming debris torrents, engines screaming. They emerged into open space on a collision course with NV-12-1Hum's orbit. Elias wrestled the controls, heart still hammering. Mara whispered, "Is it over?" He watched the Goliath tumble behind them, once a glory of concordance, now a shattered carcass. The marker's final pulse had fractured its command systems. The station was free-falling toward the asteroid. "It's done," he said, barely believing it. But he glanced at the hull breach in the shuttle's rear viewport. A sliver of black crystalline ice clung to the damaged hull plating, the last shard of the marker, shimmering. Mara caught his gaze. She held out a gloved hand. Clutched in her palm was a tiny fragment, a jagged sliver that pulsed faintly. They stared at it. Neither spoke. Outside, NV-12-12's surface drifted by, a cold, desolate world that had birthed this horror. Elias relaxed his grip on the controls, allowing the autopilot to correct their trajectory. Behind them, the Goliath struck the asteroid in a final explosion of flame and rubble, shaking the vacuum with a thunderous silence. Mara tucked the shard into her coat pocket. "We can't leave this behind." He nodded. "We'll find a way to contain it." She looked at him, fear and resolve in her eyes. "Promise me." He took a shuddering breath. "I promise." They watched the wreckage fade into debris, then turned the shuttle's nose toward the Concordance fleet beacon, blinking on their console. As the shuttle leapt toward rescue, the shard pulsed once more, a last heartbeat echoing in the void. and somewhere amidst the stars the marker's song lingered, a whisper promising it would not be the last verse. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like, comment, or share this video with your friends. Subscribe to our channel to hear more stories like this one.